Vitali, the nude astrologer, and there are two ways I do Spirit of Matter. One way, and that's what I did previously, was to read about the person, get to know a person, then make predictions about their chart, and then see the chart. But now I'm going to do it the other way around. Um, and I was called in to do Bruce Lee. Now, I don't know a lot about Bruce Lee. So I watched one interview with him. He seems very devoted and professional, and I don't know anything about his autobiography. I don't know anything. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to look at the chart of a person who is well known, so that you're probably watching. Maybe you know more than me, especially if you like martial arts and martial arts movies. And so I'm just going to come up with what I see in the chart, and now it is available for me to read about the person more and see um, what what did I manage to read. And that's another way to both learn astrology and check the ability to predict with astrology in the way you actually do it. You don't, ask a couple of questions and think you can know the sun sign of someone. You actually predict things within the chart. You actually need to know astrology to do that, and you can actually look at the chart, and maybe some of the things that I will say will be relevant and match well with what I see. So, without further ado, first things first, we had an eclipse today in Scorpio, 2 degrees Scorpio. This guy has Venus in Scorpio, but listen, the moon is exactly where he's having his lunar return, exactly on when I decided to do a reading for him. Now, for me, it is the ninth house. It's the house of learning about something, and I have Mars, Saturn, and Pluto there. Pluto where his Mars at. So there's an act of learning for me. So I'm learning about a person right at his lunar return during an eclipse. This is interesting. Um, so I just noticed the time, and that's why I call it the timely analysis. What is the time that I chose to do Bruce Lee? Why? His lunar return. Okay, I don't know what the prediction is. I mean, he's having an eclipse on his 12th and 6th houses. I'm not going to make a prediction for him because he didn't ask me to. Um, and those, as you know, are sensitive houses. It's the 12th and it's the 6th, so I don't think it is in place to make predictions. Um, and so, uh, Saturn opposition Mars is something that I see a lot when it comes to people who need to express themselves physically and have devoted passion. That can be people who are athletes, who are martial artists, because again, Mars Saturn opposition brings out tremendous confrontation. It can be with authority figures, it can be with father figures, but also I see that Saturn here in Taurus is with Jupiter, and both are retrograde, with Uranus retrograde, Chiron retrograde, and Pluto retrograde. And that's also something interesting to touch on, because for an opposition when both are direct, I would have expected to see perhaps things manifesting more early, even though it is still Saturn. But with Saturn retrograde, it means that the authority or the part that Saturn has to play, it can be a father figure, it can be a teacher, maybe the person who taught him martial arts, or maybe the aspect that is of dedication. It means that the person cannot pursue it in a fixed way, even though it is in Taurus. This person cannot pursue appeasing Saturn in a fixed way. They're going to have to try something different. Every once in a while, something's going to change, something's going to switch. And at about the maturation of Saturn, that is 36, 35, 36 in the Saturn square. This is when we're going to see um, the matters related to Saturn coming to a deeper maturation, a deeper fruition. So he could have succeeded or be more perhaps comfortable in his own skin, Saturn's skin, with the success. And this is work related, it's the sixth house, so it can also be learning self care or learning how to do martials in a way that is healthy for him, mentally and emotionally and physically. At around the Saturn maturation. It doesn't mean that it doesn't come before that, but there is something that matures there that comes into full fruition, fully seeing results at around that age. Also for Jupiter. So it and the fact that Mars is in the 12th and Saturn in the 6th, it adds a body mind. So this body mind practice, this is where martials prove exceptionally good because this can literally save a life here, because we have the mental health and the physical health coming into integration with a physical workout that requires certain type of nutrition, certain type of worldview, certain type of philosophy of psychology, certain type of routine practice, physical consciousness. So this can be actually a lifesaver for people who practice martial arts, especially with this aspect. Um, and it can also mean that it can be a way to cope with things. If you've seen my Van Damme video, then I talked about Van Damme having a mental struggle, and he used on the martials to practice also to regulate himself emotionally, and that was partially successful. Um, but here is another time where the marshals can actually be a way to work with this energy that is remedial. So with Venus uh, in the 12th, we can see, well, Venus Saturn, we can see some hidden affairs. Um, I don't know how, but this whole, complexion is also squaring Chiron and Pluto. So this can be the feminine women, sisters, spouses can be playing a part in this person's both struggle and healing in a way that is hidden. It doesn't necessarily mean that he has hidden affairs. It just means that there is hidden relationships there that bring up some sort of um, themes of power, feeling empowered and disempowered. And why do I say this? Because when you do martial arts is very, very yin. Okay, you work with energy. And how do you work with energy? You use the energy of the person in front of you and you alchemize it. Okay, you give direction to this energy. And also, you need to maintain the direction of your energy. And the goal is to basically bring the excess energy down to the earth or up to the air, so there is a balance there. There is a back to equilibrium of power that keeps you alive. And so it's a very yin practice, a very feminine practice. Um, with the Mars. So having this Mars conjunct Venus and Mars in the yin sign and Mars in the water sign, we can see the great potency for the person to succeed. Um, we have in his ninth house, it's very interesting because it has the ruler of the ninth is in the first next to the ascendant. And where? In Sagittarius. And there's just so much in this, just so much beauty in this, basically. And he's the Pluto in Leo generation, but then look at Pluto. Pluto is retrograde, and that means that the way to go about finding your power or coping with themes of power relations is not the average Joe. It's not going to work for you to do it the way your teachers teach you, or to do it the way um in the way that people usually go about their Pluto, and the advices given to dealing with that are not necessarily going to fully apply to the person. Okay, um, and having and that means also in the ninth house the worldview. It means that um, going about higher studies, worldview, philosophy, traveling safely even to what people might advise to this person. And so they have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to their ninth house. Um, and the ruler of that ninth house is in the first, and this is directly relating to his life path, the ascendant, the life path where that he experiences, not just what he's known for. Um, his life path is very philosophical, and the philosophy is power related, but also he's a performer, and the philosophy not only with not only with dealing with power, but also in healing, Chiron, but also self-expression, performance, art, following your heart, the heart and the higher mind. Okay, Saturn, a Jupiterian ruled sun. The power of the heart, the power of following your heart, and then heart and the mind. So, in many ways, this is a performer who is a teacher. It is a performer who is an inspiration due to his son, okay, who he is. Who he is an inspiration. There's something that by just standing up as himself, he teaches about um, acting, power, expression, finding your power in self expression, and doing that in a way that is not like in the books. So he can be inspiration to people who did not, were not necessarily misfits, but just people who tried to go about these themes and nothing worked for them. And so he can come up with this new way that does work for some people. Another option that was not in the book and now is available, and people can watch his movies and people can watch his interviews and be inspired by just who he is in a very immediate way. Although this is the ascendant and not the midheaven, still it is very much personal. Um, but there is an in conjunction between that ascendant sun in Sagittarius and Saturn and Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. So Sun is ruling his ninth house, which is fire, fixed fire. In Sagittarius, which is mutable fire, and the ruler in an earth sign, a fixed earth sign, with Saturn in a fixed earth sign. So there's a tremendous stagnation in that sixth house. But what else do we have there? We have there Uranus, which gives us the flavor of the unexpected. And Uranus is kind of approaching quite a sensitive spot in Taurus, that is the asteroid Algol. It's not literally Uranus on Algol, but there is that, or is it? It is. Oh my gosh, it is. Oh wow. It does not make any aspects with personal planets, but it does make an aspect with Neptune that is close to his midheaven, and it is ruled by Venus, which is next to his Mars in the 12th house. And, which is another funny thing, is what do we have this eclipse? And again, the timely ruler of the gonna be the lunar eclipse even more, because the ruler of the lunar eclipse is going to be Venus, and then it's going to be with Ketu. So it's very timely to talk about a person who has this configuration in his chart. Um, so this sixth house, we know it is health, pets, it is where we are employees, and it's where we give service to the work. It's also our workplace. So this person has his sixth house with an abundance of stagnation, Jupiter, an abundance of something. So abundance of stagnation and obstacles and things to push through in a very uncomfortable relation to who he is, to his shine. So there's a lot of challenge to being who he is, an abundance of challenge to being who he is, which gives him abundance of strength in dealing with that, and even mental resilience. Okay, he has to come up with an unusual worldview, unusual survive basically. And then we have this Uranus. So a ton of extremes in his workplace. So he's been working with a lot of extremes. Extreme boundaries, extreme stagnation, extreme challenge, and sudden growth. Perhaps to do with crisis. Um, the feminine, the yin, plays a role here. And here I would see the yin also as the martial art, because martial arts is very, very, very Venusian. It's energy. It's literally, that Venus in Scorpio there, it's like that inner wisdom of the vast, the great vast, bringing things and working with so much that is beyond the physical, and and putting that into a situation of a fight or a conflict or a Martian situation. Um, Moon in Scorpio, again, not the best position for the moon, but the moon is also opposition in Saturn and Jupiter. Abundance of need, necessity for being innovative about emotional resilience, emotional, psychological, mental resilience, and Mercury there too. Anything mental has to go through an alchemy of the body mind literally to survive. So this person is definitely, we'll definitely see here a chart of a person who came here to be invincible in what he's doing. I definitely see a person who is invincible in a fight where it's a life or death thing. So, I wouldn't want to be in front of him in a fight, because if he needs to win, he needs to survive. It's a life or death thing, and he's gonna make it. Um, so we are, the tremendous toughness and warrior, but toughness that comes in an innovative way. Um, I heard him in an interview mention the water analogy and the bee like water analogy that we know from Lao Tzu. That is, the water is so flexible, and they take the shape of everything and they adapt to everything. So being adaptive is one of the qualities that he mentioned, and it is so martial arts. And I liked it that the interviewer mentioned belly dancing, because that was my first experience with the martials. That's in no way proficient in martial arts, but it was it's like, oh, this is like a dance. This is like, energy work, yeah. Um, so, again, the Mars Saturn opposition gives us the diligence and frustration. It's like the buildup of frustration and the release of frustration over long duration of time. So this guy is very, very passionate about um, giving direction to whatever, conflict and strife is going on there in a way that is constructive, that is healthy. That and this is a survivalistic thing where thriving is surviving. With those connections of Taurus, Scorpio, thriving is surviving. And his worldview provides him with the atmosphere that he needs for that. Chiron there as well. Chiron retrograde tells us that the person is dealing with something that is overwhelmingly, it's like their own path is consuming so much so that they don't have time to be empathetic. Okay, and this is another thing. It doesn't mean that they're not a nice person, it's just that they cannot overwhelm themselves with any more Chiron things from others. So that person um, can be a person that uh, um, finds his own way around healing. And again, I mention it only because here we see clearly that the martial arts is a part of that healing, and what he's doing in life is a part of that healing. But also, it is a person that does not have too much time for caretaking for anything that is not him. Okay, they don't have too much time for that. They can't possibly overwhelm themselves with even more Chiron stuff. Um, and that can be very much compatible with toughness, like tremendous toughness. Okay. Um, and this is a part of their worldview. It's also part of their personality, and it's also part of what they do for work. And that tremendous toughness, it can be that at work, sixth house is also open enemy, so it can be that at work um, this person could not overwhelm or be a shoulder to cry on for other people who worked with him, and perhaps could have been considered a soloist, again with Saturn there. um, so that could have contributed to some strife or some difficulty, not to the fault of his own. Is midheaven in Virgo in the 10th house, um, with Rahu there in the 11th. And what is ruling Rahu? Venus in the 12th. Um, so as this person, I want to touch on Rahu first, because as this person fulfills their life, their soul quest, basically, they're activating the 12th house. So it's like I have the vision of those little waterfalls you have in the feng shui, where you have the water is falling, 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 and then by the merit of the water falling, they're activating their upward movements and then falling again. It's like a cycle, and I find myself starting to do the movements with the hands, which are very martial. It's like the ball of energy, because his soul is aspiring for that 11th. It's a public public life balance, and Libra is balance, so the soul aspires to learn how to balance things. The ruler of that Libra is in the 12th, so this is something that happened in a way that is not so tangible. It's like you almost need to channel the energy and to go into the great vast and to work with what you have. And so when he does that, he goes into the sixth house, which is his work. So and then again, the soul is craving for that 11th house, for the for the being a public figure that balances things, in this case energy and matter perhaps, but balances the aspects of the spirit. And then the ruler is in the 12th, and then it opposes the sixth. So we kind of have this, the soul is crying for more, and he gets more and more, perhaps sometimes even challenges, but also teachings that he literally channels with his body mind. And there's a need to do the sifting and sorting as with every channel, because the 12th house is also the house of what is called bad spirit, while the ninth is considered good spirit. So it's also the what we don't know that we don't know, and therefore discernment is an issue. Saturn usually rejoices in the 12th house, while Mars usually rejoices in the 6th, and so both of them are in the opposite signs to the sign that they rejoice at. So why does Saturn rejoice in the 12th house? It's not just that Saturn plays boundaries, but Saturn takes long time to assess a situation, and it would listen to what it would perceive, and then take a while with what he perceives so that he can make that needs to go these days, that needs to go these days. It's sort of, and it's also very durable. Mars, it's ruling Scorpio and Aries, so it is at home in the 12th year in Scorpio, but Mars is open enemies. What happens when we have open enemies? We need to react quickly, quickly. Something threat shows itself, something showed itself, react, cut, react, okay? But when the threat is not so clear, is foggy, we don't know, then Saturn is okay, let's observe, let's see what is it, what of it is true, because obviously this is a twist on something that is true. And this is a good tip, if you hear like people having, psychic attacks, those are like twists of something that is true. It comes to try to scare you, to shame you, to this, to that. This is not true. But there is essence there that it can only do so by taking something that is of love, oneness, frequency, purity, truth, and making a twist on it, consciously or unconsciously. And Saturn is very good in that needed discernment. But here Saturn is in the sixth, and what happens in the sixth? In the sixth, you need quick reaction. This is the workplace, okay? Um, and it's not, I don't think Saturn is necessarily suffering in the sixth, but it does give you a slower reaction time. It does give you a place where you try to deal with enemies in the sixth like you would in the 12th. In terms of the martial and the connection between them, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that it would have been, preferably it would have been the other way around, with Saturn would have been in the 12th and Mars would have been in the first, and then the marshals could do an easier connection. But notice also Saturn is retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Uranus, Chiron, and Pluto retrograde. So this tells us that the way to go about this is unique. Okay, so even in his own field, is going about his challenges in a unique way that creates a unique expression, which is what we love seeing, um, and becomes publicly known. Okay, the soul reaches its goal, is publicly known for that. a Venus rule, the Rahu also tells us that the person likes Venusian things. It's both balancing art, image, um, looking good, expressing oneself in a way that is elegant, that has beauty. Even though Venus is like it's fallen, it's in Scorpio, but then it's a martial artist and it's a Mars ruled Venus. Also, it can be the aesthetics of the martial arts, which is eventually a part of what is known for, as well as the depth of mind. Um, Midheaven in Virgo, with the ruler of the midheaven in the 12th, and this is yet another sign, okay? We saw something like that with Van Damme as well. As this person is doing his life mission, what he is to be known for, the type of life mission is not a personal quest, but also what he's meant to do, what people will know him for. Um, and in this case, it's in the 10th, so it's also his career. Midheaven is not always in the 10th, it can be in the 11th, so it's more public figure, goals, dreams, or ninth house that is more a teacher or something to do with international relations and so on and so forth. But here it is in the 10th. And Neptune, there, not too far. It's not that close to the midheaven, but it is the highest planet in the chart. And it is in the 10th house. So, first of all, the ruler of the midheaven again in the 12th. So, as this person approaches the fulfillment of the midheaven, as this person is doing what he's meant to do in his career field in this case, he is activating the 12th. This can mean that this person can experience both gains from his losses, because the 12th is I'm sorry, not gains from his losses. No, this is for the second. Is experiencing perhaps um, loss of communication, his image not being communicated in a way that he can control, which, by the way, is true to a lot of actors and actresses. You make a movie, this movie is going to be edited, it's going to be cut, it's going to be promoted in a certain way, and you don't always control your image. In fact, you mostly don't until you get to a certain position where you can, if your chart allows. Neptune tells us that there can be something fated, okay? This can be a situation where whatever this person is known for, whatever his careers, this can also be bosses and father figures and fathers, but I'm not going to touch on that. But this person's reputation is not in his hand. This person's image is not in his hands. We see it both with Neptune and with the ruler of the midheaven in the 12th house. With Neptune, we can also have an effect where the person goes viral. Okay, the person is mythical, out of the ordinary, idealized, can also be devaluated later. Okay, it's the ideation devaluation. It can be a person that is suddenly very well known or suddenly falls from grace. It can also be a person who is known for being spiritual. It can also be a person who people think that they are misleading or charlatans or fake. I think I even saw somebody who says, "Oh, they showed like his practice routine, and then people believed that he was fake because he's no longer not lifting weights too high." And I'm like, he's not supposed to. He's doing internal style, if I'm not mistaken, or mixed style. He's not a bodybuilder. He's a martial artist. So people will have this misinformation again, information gone missing, and people framing that in a way that he couldn't control and thinking that he's fake, where he's actually not fake at all. Um, so that is something that it can be. But also with that, sextile to Pluto and Chiron, that missing thing can be something that is fated, that is contributing in higher system of healing and power. So it can be, for example, a person is afraid of success, so they have a loss, and now they go to being a bit anonymous, or a person is needing to hide something, and now people are talking about, oh, he's not lifting weights, and there's something else that they should have perhaps been talking about, and but they're not, because the it is diverted, but it's not that the person planned that necessarily. It's not that the person planned that, it's just that it's not in their control. And so by luck, they didn't have to tend to certain things. But here it can definitely go certain missing information, information that is lost, a loss of communication that can create an illusion. And that illusion can be positive and negative. We only see a part of the picture, and so the people project ideals onto him, um, that are not in his control. Anything more I have to say about this chart? Um, I think that's it. It is true that Mercury is also the ruler of his seventh house, and again in the 12th. It means that the whole issue of one to one relationships is fated for him. It doesn't have too much control about that, which yet strengthens the one tool that he does have, and this is the martial arts. Okay, his art is literally an anchor that alchemizes and remediates, but also activates and vigors the conflict. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting to talk about this when when the eclipses are like right on. Um, Incredibly timely. Um, yeah, I think a lot of martial artists. Also, right now we have the ruler of the eclipse, that is Mars in Gemini, and Mars in Gemini, fast kicks, fast punches, um, uh, but then yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder if we'll see something with martial arts. If we'll see some changes to that, I don't know. Um, oh, of course, I forgot to mention about Neptune. It could be that people thought or wondered if he takes medication, because Neptune is also medication. If he takes medication to pump up, but he was not pumped up. But people might think that he was taking medication to improve his appearance. I don't necessarily see that. Even if I don't see any harsh Neptunian aspects here, like with Van Damme, there was drug addiction, and he had Neptune in the second, which means spending money on medications, sometimes prescribed, sometimes not, and there was, I think, a hard aspect there. But this was something that he spoke about. He was not, trying to hide anything. But because Neptune is in the 10th, this is a situation where people can believe the person is taking drugs, taking this, taking that. It's nothing at all. It's not like that. Although, of course, stellium in the 12th can be signification that, one might deal with patterns that are not in his control, and therefore it can also be a house of addictions. I would be very cautious to say that, especially when we don't know, and especially when there's missing information. So we probably won't get the correct picture about that. Yeah, we see a beautiful element of the sun trining Pluto and Chiron. Again, a remedial aspect, ability to create harmony from this conflict and seeing the beauty of the conflict and how the conflict, it's sort of like, why get mad when you can get fit? Okay? Why get mad at somebody when you can get fit? And this is what you do with the marshals. You express yourself, you express your rage, you express your anger, and you give it structure, and then your body becomes fit and your soul becomes resilient. And you make beauty out of this conflict. Making a beauty out of this conflict, out of this, martial needs or the need to be in a fight, then making a beauty it rather than being disheartened or faltering. So this is what I have to say. I don't know anything about the guy. Let's take a look at, you know, let's take a look. Let's take a look at Bruce Lee. I don't know, Bruce Lee, Wikipedia or something. Obviously, need to get educated. So, okay. Oh, I did not know he was a filmmaker. It makes sense though. Um, so, martial artist, instructor, teacher, of course, yes, absolutely. The person is a teacher, actor, naturally, filmmaker, and philosopher. So, known as a philosopher as well. I love that. It's something I didn't know about him, but it's not surprising to me. Now, with the ruler of the ninth and the first is a person that has a path to be a philosopher. Okay. A founder of a new martial arts philosophy. Like I said, he had to go about his ninth house and also his workplace, and he's dealing with Saturn and Jupiter in a new way. So he founded a new philosophy that is drawing from different disciplines and oh, for the modern mixed martial arts. Oh, this is MMA. Okay, look how uneducated I am. I did not know that MMA is mixed martial arts. Okay, now I understand. So by critics, media, and other artists, he was most influential of all times and pop culture icon of the 20th century. Bridged the gap between the East and the West. Okay. And look what he is known for, bridging the gap of something, balancing something, the East and the West. So this is more the Rahu thing, where Rahu is in Libra, and Libra is known for a balanced, harmonious, or to balance something. And again, Venusian, okay, pop culture. It's not some experimental, side, how do you call it, side culture. Even though what he was doing was very unique, okay? So to have that be popular, it's tremendous, both luck and I guess bringing the burden that he needed to deal with. So promoting Hong Kong action cinema, helping to change the way Asians were presented in American films. So here we see a value here. And part, it's both, I'm ascribing this both to the Venusian aspect of his Rahu, okay, to balance the view, balance the image of, in this case, Asians in American films. But also, the ruler of his ascendant is Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the sixth. So his job had to do with worldview. Okay, not necessarily to change a worldview, but the sixth is also ruled by Venus, and Venus is in the 12th. So the 12th is also, if you remember, spirit of matter. I look at the ninth and the 12th for thinkers and philosophers. What does this person bring? So he's bringing to the world the notion of the Asians as martial artists, as it is strange. I did not know that he was new in doing that. I was he new in doing that? Like really? Was that not existing before? It's not. I learned filmmaking, but it's not something that I learned about. So I didn't do martial arts when I was in my filmmaking studies. So feel free to correct me here if this is not or correct Wikipedia. Um, oh, he died. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. He died so young. He died at the Saturn. No, he died after his Saturn return. 32. Oh wow, so young. I did not even know that. Was born in the 1940s. He died. This is funny. I'm making a video about a person who is no longer with us, and I didn't know that. Um, what cerebral edema, so brain damage, so probably to do with inflammation. When I think about this, fluids. Oh wow, pressure within the skull, and oh, okay, headache, nausea, accumulation of fluids. But fluids, why? Is it fluids because of inflammation? Okay, so this was from brain damage. I had no idea. Here I am making a video about a person and then finding out that he's dead. And when I was doing this, I was afraid that that he's gonna die, because because I was like, why am I looking at his lunar return? Oh my gosh, I was afraid that he's gonna die. And I said, I didn't say anything, but I was like, I was afraid that the reason that I'm reading this is because he's dying or he's about to die. um, so he lived from 1941 to 1973. Um, had his spouse, Brandon and Shannon Lee. Wow. Why was I being called now? It is the lunar return of the person that is no longer. What was I being called to do? Bruce Lee. Okay. So these are his parents, opera singers. He was born in San Francisco in the 40s. So he's born and raised American. And then he returned to Hong Kong. The family returned to Hong Kong a few months later. Um, which I guess is probably seen in the, stellium in the 12th also tells us that the person might be in exile or might travel to a very far away land. What was his fourth house? Was Pisces. Okay. But, yeah, and Jupiter in the 6th, but opposing the 12th. So, yeah, probably for the work of the family, they had to move. And so he had lived this bridge. It's interesting. Okay, that's where he moved, studied in university, um, and to make money by teaching martial arts. And he wanted to be an actor, so he wanted to be an actor, and he knew martial arts, and then he combined them. Did martial arts as self-expression. Opened his school of martial arts. Again, a teacher. Working as a teacher of the martials. Um, mm, mm, mm. What? Oh my God! His students were Chuck Norris, Sharon Tate, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and in the 70s, Hong Kong and Hollywood produced film elevated the Hong Kong martial arts film. Wow! So this is the guy that taught Chuck Norris how to fight. Wow! This is amazing. And then it sparked a Western interest in Chinese martial arts, um, which also changed the martial arts worldwide because this integration with action films and with plot films, and I guess every country had their own style and their own way of making movies. It was not always the seven acts that we see with Western films. Um, okay, so this huge. Mm-mm-mm. He was known among. Oh, was known amongst Chinese people. Define Asian stereotype. What did people think about Asians? I don't know if I want to know. Um, so he learned Wing Chun, Tai Chi, boxing, and street fighting, and combined them with other influences from various sources. Okay, so the way he intends mixed, I see, is mixed because usually what I know about mixed martial arts is internal styles versus external, which I believe is true, but they refer to mixed here as just mixing a couple of styles, which of course are both internal and external. I mean, Tai Chi versus boxing. Um, Although Tai Chi is mixed internal and external, I don't know what Wing Chun is. Um, okay, so the way of intercepting fist, of the intercepting fist. Well, the guy has Mercury in the Mars world sign and Mars at home, so of course the fist is mercurial. And this also our nervous system, thinking about it. Um, okay. Wow, just so young. Oh my gosh. Prominent influence about. Okay. So I'm just very thankful to have had the chance to delve deeper into it. Um, that's the family. Oh, Dutch Jewish Cantonese. Ooh, wow. Euro Asian. Yeah. That is Dutch Jewish Canton. It's very interesting. I'm half Dutch, half Jewish, but I don't have Cantonese descendant. Yeah, I think this is. I'm sorry for hanging on to this because it's just so. Yeah. Wow. Seizures and headaches. Okay. Wow. So brain issues. Um. Yes. I still don't know why was I called to do this chart today. Um, but it was the lunar return. It was exactly the lunar return when I decided to do that of the person. And yeah, and the eclipse would have been on his Mars Venus. So I would literally I would spend half of the video thinking, oh my gosh, is this person going to die? And, and then I find out that he's already dead long time ago. So this is wonderful for me to learn about this person, and I hope you can get. Um, I hope you can get something out of these practices, and for those of you who like the martials, then I would always inspect the Mars Saturn, at least the Mars Saturn. And usually there's a Mars Sun Saturn involved, and martials is a good way to deal with that. with of course something to do with the philosophy or energy if you want to get the more, the full holistic practice. I'm getting a lot of the marshals um, in yeah, well, we had Jupiter in we have Jupiter in a Mars world sign, so of course it's also another thing that can bring it about. And for those of you who are just into astrology whatsoever, then this is a good example of how you can, read a chart and then look at the person, so you can focus on the data that you receive without knowing too much about who that person is, and then learning about the person and see how much did you get to find before you delved into meeting the person itself. I actually don't know if I recommend doing that with clients because I'd always like to listen to the person as much as I can. So I try to not read too much into the chart before I actually see the person. I know it can be very difficult for beginners, um, but it is a good practice to um, engage with the art of astrology. Alternatively, I could also, look and look at Bruce Lee and say, okay, like I did in the beginning, okay, what do I expect to see there, and so and so. But this time I did it the other way around. Um, yes, and another thing you can go is just go back to the chart and think about your own chart and think about scientifically what could you be missing, could you not see right there, or alternatively, why were you drawn to do this chart, or what does this person bring to your life. Here, if I think he has his Pluto and Chiron in my sixth house, which is work or the service that I give to the world. He's Neptune in my seven, midheaven in my seventh. Um, I don't know if that applies. My ninth, he has a stellium in my ninth, so this would be a person that I could be learning about or learning something that he teaches, which I will definitely delve deeper into following this, record. But also, it can be a person that I teach about. Okay, a person that becomes an example in my teaching because it is in my ninth house of what I teach. To my third house, he brings Saturn and Jupiter and Uranus. Very timely when Uranus is in Taurus again. Very timely when Jupiter is about to enter Taurus later this year. And in 2023, when I say this year, I already mean 2023. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, a Venus ruled year, and there was a lot of Venus that I was talking about here. Um, what else could be there? Well, his sun is in my 10th house as well, his ascendant. And that would be where my Keto is. Think yes. And his descendant is where my Rahu is. Um, so yeah, but this is also in my 10th house, so this house of the career. My midheaven is also in the 10th, but not in the end. It's in 26, in 26 Sagittarius. So this person is a person who I might speak or teach about because my 10th house is in Sagittarius in my career. So it's a person I might teach about. Um, And for the Chiron in my sixth house, so this person could tell me perhaps of performance, of unique ways to deal with things. Maybe his philosophy can be very relevant to my art and to what I create. Beyond, this video, just like actually looking into his philosophy of the martials and learning from him as teacher. So his Rahu in my eighth house, I don't think it's relevant because he's not with us. But then the eighth house is also how we balance our energy with the energy of the other, if we think about it as Libra, and that is very relevant to what I might be doing with Marshall's internally. Um, Lilith in Aries, I also have that. Keto in Aries, close to my Lilith. I don't know. I don't think it's relevant, at least not to, to this reading. And yes, I reckon his lot of fortune is around my Saturn and Moon around my Saturn. Again, not something that is, I think, relevant to this reading. Fix me if I'm wrong. Um, I don't think that I could be like it. It don't think he's making any harsh aspects to my Mercury or anything that could have caused me to see him in a delusional way. So I don't think that there is any reason to think I'm biased in the way that I teach or learn from this person necessarily. Which is good because if, let's say, I would have to learn from him in person, then his Neptune in my seventh could make us delusional about that relation, or could experience loss and maybe in a business way there. Um, so yeah, sometimes it's better to learn from someone through media or through what they have to teach, and not necessarily learning one to one with this person. I'm not saying that this is negative, would necessarily turn out negative, but just it's even better when I connect with what the person has to teach and not one to one. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I think I said it all. Um, and that is, by the way, how you use a synastry. Okay, it's very obvious to me that my ninth house is activated. I have Pluto where his Venus is, and now there was eclipse, and then on his lunar return, I was looking and recording this video, and I'm like, eclipse, not eclipse, I don't know. I'm doing this for me, and yeah, and this is why you would use, for example, a synastry, even though you don't see my chart here, but why you would use a synastry. And this is also something that I accentuate. Why did I draw this person? Why this? Maybe now it's good for me to look into him. Maybe now it's good for me to study his teaching. Maybe now it's good for me to spread the word for other people to look into what he had to teach as well in these times that we're going through as a world. I don't know. Maybe so. Um, and so those things can be reasons that you are drawn to talk about or to drawn to see a person. This is a good use of synastry so that you can understand more in more clarity what is this about, why am I drawn to this person, to this object, to this event, to this field of study, and then being aware you can conduct yourself better. um, that's that. I'm Talishir on Twitter. I'm Shelly Youngblood on Instagram. I do readings, and you can contact me for that. It's $50 for a reading right now, and for me, as long as I'm able to just connect directly with you and not have to hold a staff of staff, then I've no reason to raise the price because I want to be accessible. And also, if I don't have extra expenses, then I can allow myself to offer a price that is perhaps attractive, but fair. That it's good for me and it's good for you, and we don't have a lot of intermediaries that other businesses must hold. So you can contact me on Twitter. You can contact me on Instagram. I will not contact you for a reading. Okay. For me, it didn't happen, but I see this happening more and more. This whole scammy thing. So you get notified, you get this, you get that. I don't contact you for a reading. You contact me for a reading. You look for me. You see my videos. You see my channel. I don't have a blue V just yet. and you contact me, and this is the only way we make contact. Okay, I don't talk to you, you talk to me, so that you know that this is me. If anybody turns to you, okay, and I have Neptune around my ascendant, and I have Neptune as the highest planet in my midheaven. Okay, so if somebody tries to scam you that they are me and turn into you and asking for money, asking for whatnot, it's not me. Okay, report this person, block this person. Okay, the only if ever the only way I would ask for you for money is if I make a video and I tell you, okay, listen, I am in so and so. I was in between two houses when I was in the Netherlands, and that was an emergency, but not turning to you personally. I won't do it because there are a lot of scammers. But you are invited to book me for a reading. You just have to contact me for that. That's that. I hope you take, if you see it's around the eclipse season, I hope you take good care of yourselves. Um, I hope I haven't been too ridiculous when I didn't notice that Bruce Lee did not is not with us during the first part of the video. Um, the personal experience was really funny because I thought he might die. And then it was like, okay, he's no longer with us. It's not. But yeah. But this is a part of what's happening here. This is a part of what happens when I do it on purpose, that I just either read about a person online or look at the chart online, and those are the beautiful things that can happen. I think it's a part of the experience and a part of what makes it entertaining to watch me for those who are entertained. Um, and you see my spooky eyes. Yeah. So I'll see you in my next video. Take very good care of yourselves. Please tell me that I put. Did I go live? Yes. Oh my gosh. I was afraid I did it without going live. So I did go live. What if I do this? Oh! I could be beautiful on this video and I didn't know all that long. I found out something new. Okay. And I'll see you in my next video. Take very good care of yourselves. Be kind with yourselves. Eclipse season. And even if it's not eclipse season, still be kind with yourselves. Have a good day or night or whatever.